We're here at the Combine with Howie Roseman, general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, and very successful season early, kind of had a little stumbling coming down late, but done a phenomenal job building that roster. And then you get into the offseason, and then just like most of us at the time are dealing with player issues, nothing significant. But I wanted to ask you first about A.J. Brown and some of the comments and some of the things that were reported out in the media that seem not to actually be true.
First of all, you did this job for so long, and you're smiling when you talk about all the player issues that I go to. It's almost like spiteful, you know. But obviously, you know, that's what we sign up for, you know, to make decisions and have hard decisions. And we have some of those coming up. You talk about A.J. I think you start with A.J. he was a captain for a reason. He's an unbelievable teammate. He wants to defend the players around him. He loves playing in Philly. And so I think you see that. I think when you have guys who are passionate about their craft and what they do, I think, you know, you kind of see that, and obviously how he feels about his teammates.
And let's talk a little bit about Hassan Reddick. There's been a lot of reports that maybe you're trying to look to trade him, and I don't think people realize how many behind-the-scenes meetings go on down here with other teams. Will we see Hassan on the move?
Well, I think when you talk about Hassan, you talk about a kid who grew up in Camden, New Jersey, right across the bridge. You know, played at Temple, and he comes to Philadelphia, and he's had 2, you know, Pro Bowl years. You know, he's had 4 straight years of double-digit sacks, and so for him, obviously, he wants to know what's going in the last year of his contract, what his situation is, and for us, we got a lot of balls in the air, and so you know, we try to have just honest conversations with our players. Obviously, love having him. He's a huge force for us the last 2 years, and so we'll just kind of see where everything goes, but certainly we'd love to have him back.
And then when you look at your roster and some of the free agents that are coming up with Cox, with Kelsey, and I don't know, if you're going to be celebrating again like last year, popping whatever was that, champagne or what?
Mezcal, Phosphoro Mezcal. Yeah, I think when you talk about those guys, I think what's really special is we had this group. You know, when I first became GM with Coach Reed, in 2010 we took BG, in 2011 we took Kelsey, in 2012 we took Fletch, in 2013 we took Lane. I mean, all those guys, you know, Eagles Hall of Famers in my mind. 3 of those guys have a chance to be NFL Hall of Famers. That's special, you know, and I think the fact that they've played together and they've been through what we've been through together with different coaches, a couple of Super Bowls, it's really important for us, and that starts with Jeffrey, that these guys have an opportunity to retire as Eagles. And so we'll give them their space, we'll give them their time, and whatever decision they make, it will be our goal, if they want to keep playing, to make sure they keep playing with the Eagles.
And as a general manager, and you talk about making some of those tough decisions, when is it that fine line, and let's say we have to move on, and because we have some younger guys behind them that have an opportunity to step in, but yet not wanting to lose that leadership and those culture builders in your locker room?
Yeah, I think when you talk about those 4 guys and how important they've been to the franchise and how they're still playing at a high level, I think those guys you put to the side because of how high a level they play at. And I think, though, when you look at it, I think that's some of the hardest decisions. And I think, you know, over this offseason, kind of looking back, you know, have I been really good about maybe 1 year early versus 1 year late? And those are the things you're constantly trying to evaluate yourself with and see if you've done a good job on that, because, you know, when you have players that you draft, when you have players you draft and then sign to an extensions, those guys hold a special place for you, just like your kids, you know, and you're extremely proud of them, and kind of taking that part and understanding you had a really good run with them, but also understanding we got to compete and try to compete for championships and do the best we can building this team. I think that's part of the job, and you know, I hope I continue to learn and evolve through that and understand that maybe that's an area I haven't done a great job of.
And with the new cap coming out, it seems like you guys have enough cap space. Do you look at more trying to keep your own, or potentially you've always been very aggressive trying to go out and improve that roster no matter which way you can, whether it's a trade, a big free agent signing, building through the draft like you've done a phenomenal job over the last couple years with the cap space that came out? Do you see yourself being proactive in free agency or trying to keep your own? Or
Well, I think they're probably parallel paths. I think at the end of the day, when you draft guys and you draft culture setters and you draft guys that, are Eagles and that it means a lot to them to play in Philadelphia, you want to keep those guys. And so those are the guys that you're trying to extend. You're trying to extend early and you're trying to keep around, because I think that's really how you build culture, is by drafting, developing, extending, and understanding that people, when they get drafted, I can stay here,
Right.
and certainly we have a bunch of those guys, not only the guys that we discuss, but when you have guys like Jalen Hurts or Jordan Mailata, just to name a few young guys who you've gone into second, Dallas Goederts, those guys, certainly that helps build your culture. So I think that's the first part. You got to keep those guys. And then, it's in our DNA to try to be aggressive, to try to get good players, to try to be creative getting good players. But it's got to make sense. You can't force that. You got to do it based on a value that you set during calm times, which you did a great job of. And then understanding you can rebound from the player you don't sign, but you can't rebound from the bad contract that you do, and that sets you back. So just trying, to make decisions with a big picture, understanding free agency, understanding the draft, understanding your contracts that are coming up, and trying to build this where you're sustainable and try to have another run. We've been fortunate. We made the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years, 2 Super Bowls. Have another run like that, and not just kind of bottom out.
Another last area I want to discuss with you is your coaching staff. 2 years ago, you lost 2 coordinators to head coaching jobs, and those are tough to replace. Yeah. Last year, you weren't as successful, even though you won, I believe, 9 or 10 games
right.
before you went down a little bit. So there was a decision to move on from those coordinators and bring in new coordinators this year. One, what went behind that decision? And 2, just let everybody know how important continuity is, trying to keep the coaching staff together.
And obviously Coach Sirianni is in charge of the coaching staff. And, a year ago after the Super Bowl, we lost our offense and defensive coordinator. And those are hard positions to fill after the Super Bowl that late in the process, when you have this normal kind of, head coaching vacancies and people hiring staff. And so when you're doing it at that time, it's a different process than, unfortunately, after winning 11 games and losing in the first round of the playoffs. And I thought Coach did a great job of evaluating really talented guys. I mean, we interviewed guys on both sides of the ball that were really talented, and obviously excited to get Coach Fangio and Kellen in the building. And now you'd like you said, to have some continuity, because when you're drafting guys, when you're signing guys, you don't want to go system to system. You don't want to say, hey, can this guy fit in a 3 down and 4 down, playing press, playing off. You want to have some consistency there so you can build around the guys that you've got and do it based on the systems you have.
And when you're replacing coaches and knowing the personnel, because you draft, like you said, certain personnel for certain schemes,
Yep.
Is there going to be a big difference in what you've done in the past with the 2 new coordinators?
No, I think, when you look at what JG did and what Sean did, there's a lot of carryover and effect for what they're looking for from a personnel perspective. I think maybe that's one of the reasons that Coach Sirianni was so excited about going in these directions. And I think obviously you can keep adding, you can keep getting better, which we need to do, but it's not an overhaul of systems and schemes, which makes our job easier.
Yeah. Well, Philadelphia Eagle fans, Howie Roseman, I know they're going to get back on track. They have a great team, and I know you had some changes this year, and you're going to keep working at it.
Rick, of course, has a podcast with Ryan Wilson. It's called With the First Pick, and you can bet they're going to be talking about all the action we're going to see this week at the Combine, not only the discussions with general managers, but also what we're going to see when workouts start on the field. You can download and follow With the First Pick wherever you get your podcasts, or scan that QR code to listen to the latest episode right now.